Hello, Mauricio. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Laura?
I'm good, thank you. So I have some questions for you, and I would like to start with how did you come up with the idea of the Night of the Beast?
Um, well, the Night of the Beast. I grew up in a small town near Bogota. It's a town called Chia, and when I was going to high school, a lot of my friends and neighbors were like heavy metal fans. I was never very much into heavy metal when I was growing up. I was more into hip hop, but my closest friends were all into heavy metal. And once I started writing for film and TV, I always wanted to tell a story about my friends, about that moment in time growing up with them, and how the metal community in Colombia and in many parts of Latin America, there's like a ill conceptions of them. They're Satanists, they worship the devil, they're drug addicts because they have long hair. And I wanted to flip that narrative of the prejudice against the metal community. So I first created the two characters, Chucky and Vargas. They're kind of like an amalgam of a lot of friends and myself. Each one of them has things that, of different people. But I wasn't sure exactly what story I wanted to tell about them. And it was in a summer break from my master's degree. I went back to Colombia and I was hanging out with all those friends. Now we've grown up, and they were all, we were like in a metal bar in Chapinero. Chapinero is like a neighborhood in like a kind of like a bohemian neighborhood in Bogota, with a lot of metal bars. And we were listening to Iron Maiden, to Black Sabbath, and to all these bands. And they started telling me the stories of how it was the adventures of going into the first Iron Maiden concert. The concert was very important because not many bands would go to Colombia at the time. It was in 2008, and because of the civil conflict, a lot of bands just didn't go to Colombia. So Iron Maiden, it was like the first big tour. Like it was a big tour that came, and and it was very symbolic for Bogota and for the country to finally get something like that. It was a bit of liberty, and not only metal fans went to the concert, but everyone that could afford the tickets ended up going. Obviously, there were riots. There was like a lot of destruction. The police in Colombia are known for their violence, and repression, and it ended up like being a lot of chaos. But it's considered to be one of Iron Maiden's best concerts.
Yeah, watching the film, you really perceive that the metal scene was really important for your country at that time. So I would like to ask you what what was the metal scene in Mexico at that time? Like, what did it mean to young people being a metal fan?
In Colombia, you mean, yeah?
Yes.
Um, I mean, metal is really big in Colombia and in Latin America in general. Like it's still it's getting smaller because reggaeton, the youth are turning to reggaeton. And I mean, it's such a big community in Bogota. For example, there is rock or metal festivals in every neighborhood. So it's a huge community. It's very underrepresented. Uh, like I said, there's a lot of prejudice against the metal fans. But there's so many bands in Colombia, like metal bands, and also not only male-led bands, but also female-led bands now. So it's kind of like this very cross-gender, very diverse type of universe. And at that time, like I said, it is a very important counterculture, like an urban tribe. Um, but again, they're very much repressed by the police. Nowadays, they're gonna, the community is a little bit smaller because of the change in the music scene, but it's still strong. Like the scene of the concert in the film, we shot that during Rock al Parque. Rock al Parque which means a rock at the park, basically. It's the biggest free rock festival in Latin America, and it's a 3-day event. And the first day of that festival is always the metal day. So we shot the scenes of the concert during the metal day of Rock al Parque, which had 100,000 people going to that for that day. So you can still feel the importance of the metal community in Bogota just because of that.
Yeah, that sounds amazing how music can mean so much for a community. And were the actors real Iron Maiden fans or were actors?
No, real Iron Maiden fans. The majority of the cast in the film is non-professional actors. We actually did a big casting call for metal fans in Colombia. We went to record stores. We talked with a lot of the music magazines from the city. We talked with the different festivals, rock festivals around the city and the country. We saw maybe like 400 metal fans for the casting.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were fans of Iron Maiden. And it was very difficult to find Chucky, the chubby kid with
Yeah,
the,
yeah, yeah.
he was very difficult to find because it was a very specific character that I wrote, and I really wanted to get someone as close as possible to what I had written. And when we found Esteban, it was miraculous. Like it was like a serendipity type of thing, like he was like so unique. He was so shy at first. It was a beautiful experience working with both of them, but with Esteban Galindo, with Chucky in particular, because he was very shy. He wasn't able to look at the, he suffered from bullying when he was younger. So he was carrying all this weight, and it was very nice to see him kind of like break open and he has a lot of talent.
Yeah, he did an amazing job. I thought they were professionals, to be honest.
Yeah, no, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have that much budget. It's a very low budget film. But we gave them some training like a couple of weeks before, and what the main thing we worked on was in their friendship, because they didn't know each other. So what we did was we would give them money to go hang out, to go to record stores, to buy music. We would take them to concerts. We would try to do as much as we could so that the relationship between the two would feel real. And I think that's what makes it work, that they do feel as if they were friends from a long time ago.
Yeah, it really looks like. And watching The Night of the Beast, knowing that it's a film from Colombia, someone may imagine the typical film about drugs and typical stuff we're used to see. Do you think that your film differs from the typical stereotypical Colombian cinema?
I do. I mean, I think that I do believe that all stories need to be told, whether they're about drug dealing or violence or poverty or anything. I just feel that in Colombia in particular, we have a tendency, a lot of the film festivals in Europe kind of make a trend of what should be made in a country. And that happens a lot in Latin America, that whatever Cannes is looking for, whatever Rotterdam is looking for, whatever Berlin is looking for, the national cinemas try to produce films that fit within that mold so that they get some exposure, because usually we don't get a lot of audiences for Colombian films in Colombia. So a lot of my fellow film directors work on stories that will be closer to the sensibilities of what European or American audiences, festival audiences want to watch. I wasn't too worried about that. I wanted to tell a story about friendship. I usually don't do a lot of stories that follow the trend of that type of film, even though I respect those films a lot. It's more that I want to be able to explore a different side of Colombia and a different narrative of Colombia. And also I believe representation is quite important, because how we portray ourselves is how we see ourselves. So if we continue portraying ourselves in these more violent or more obscure ways, we won't be able also to question those other things that kind of like make our culture so rich. And I do believe Colombia is not only, we're not only drugs and we're not only violence.
For sure, for sure. No, I completely agree with what you said. I think that it's really important to give different representation of a place from different points of view. And what are you working on at the moment?
Right now I'm in Mexico. I can't contractually, I can't say much of what I'm doing, but
Okay.
I'm doing a new TV show, genre TV show here in Mexico, and I'm gonna be here for the rest of this year.
Okay. Well,
Sorry, is that I got in trouble. I got in trouble a couple of weeks when I said something, and I can't speak much about it.
okay. Thank you so much